Welcome to Outside the Gym, a fitness trainer interview series by FitBudd. So, over here, we call personal trainers from all across the world. So, today, on the special occasion of International Women's Day, we have Vanessa Bogenholm, who is a certified personal trainer and a professional marathon runner based in California. So, today, she would be sharing her fitness journey with us and some key insights of women taking up fitness as a profession. So, without much delay, let's get started. So, Vanessa, firstly, welcome to Outside the Gym, a fitness trainer interview series by FitBudd. We are glad to have you on board with us for today.
Great. So it'd be great to talk to you about how the app is working and all the kind of things I do. So let's go for it.
Definitely. So, first question to you, Vanessa. So, how did you get your fitness journey started? I'm really curious to know that.
Sure. So I was a very overweight child, about 200 pounds as a 13-year-old. And I actually went to a basketball practice when I was very overweight. I was obviously the slowest person out there. And the coach was really nice and just said, you probably want to get fit. This is the 1980s, and running was huge at that time. And Frank Shorter was my hero. He was an American gold medal winner in the marathon. And I went out to run, and I could only run 23 steps. And so why my company is called Fitness 23 is because that's how many steps I first ran as a 13-year-old.
Wow.
And that's where it all started. I ran my first marathon at 15,
Wow.
won my first marathon at 16. Did not run in college. I actually got injured. We didn't have a clue how to run back then.
Okay.
But still run 8 or 9 marathons a year now.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, Vanessa, as you mentioned about your fitness inspiration, can you please talk more about your role model for you?
Sure. So Frank Shorter was an Olympic marathoner. The running craze was huge in the United States back then. But, I'm 55 years old. And so back then, they thought that women would injure themselves running. They thought that our uteruses would fall out. They said the most bizarre things ever. And, I just did what he did. I wanted his character more than I even wanted to ever think that I could be a great athlete. I just thought these athletes had character. And I really wanted to be an achiever in life and not someone who was always disappointed. And what
Right.
running did for me and exercise did for me was not just make me take off this weight, but it also made me an A student in school now, where I had been a C student before, because it showed me that hard work got me somewhere. And one
Right.
of the things I always try with my clients, especially young people, was to say, if you could do this better than you did yesterday, obviously you could work harder at school also. And that's how our mind-body connection works.
Right. Definitely. I'm totally on board with you for that. So, Vanessa, as you mentioned about, the challenges of women actually taking up athletes and all. So, like, as you are aware about that, International Women's Day is also, coming, it's around the corner on 8th of March. So, like, what do you feel like? Is there any like kind of, fitness athlete or maybe female athlete of yours who you actually look up to as an inspiration in this industry? And it's not necessarily, it has to be, around fitness only. It can be like, like in terms of leadership or in terms of, any other aspect in which you actually, kind of deep down got motivated.
So I think it's really, excuse me, I think it's really fascinating about female athletes and how they can become business people also. When you look at the
Yeah.
Serena and the Venus Williams, they create empires after becoming an athlete, right? And an
Right.
inspiration, and
Right.
not doing it like everybody else does it, which is
Right.
always amazing when you look at these athletes, whoever you're looking at, to do things. And we have so many track and field athletes coming around the world now, and not just coming from the United States or from England, which were always the major places. But you see this, and you see them just taking ownership and not letting an agent control them, using their
Right.
money for the good in the world, right?
Right.
This is a very different women's thing that we've seen before. So, I Title IX passed in 1972, which allowed women in the United States to get college scholarships for sports. Before
Wow.
that, women could not. This changed everything because now you could be a sports person and get college paid for, which is the
Wow.
same
That's
as a guy. So that was
yeah.
huge. And that's really changed how things go. But I think women are, when you look at Lindsey Vonn, the skier, all these people create businesses with their athletics.
Right. Very true. Very true. So, like Vanessa, according to you, do you feel that there are some kind of like major challenges which female athletes actually face while embarking on their fitness journey, or maybe taking up athletics, or taking up a particular sports as a profession?
Mhm. So I think it's really interesting as, we have the male female gender situation and
Yeah.
how women can't be too strong in business because then they're considered bullies and bitches and everything else that's negative,
Right.
right?
Right.
Where a guy, you expect that, right? So there is
Right.
kind of a fine line. And no one's harder on a woman than another woman, which is also the worst thing ever. We're not very supportive of each other, which is a
Right.
very strange thing to me. And we're very
Right.
critical of each other. But we are
Right.
in a really weird situation here where plastic surgery is so common. So I think
Mhm.
it's, in Photoshop and photos and all those things. And when I wrote
Right.
my book, it was a big deal to me that none of my photos are Photoshopped. None of my photos are ever Photoshopped,
Hmm.
and that it is actually me with no plastic surgery. So that's a big deal. The biggest, most popular woman in the world is Kim Kardashian, right? Here's a
Yeah.
woman full of makeup and plastic surgery. How
Right.
is that someone to look up to, right? How is
Definitely.
that someone who achieved something? That's not. That's someone
Yeah.
who paid for something. So
Right.
I really hope that my image shows that women can be really fit in their 50s and be their own company and do things responsibly and still feel good about it.
Definitely, definitely, Vanessa. Whenever I kind of see your post, it
Mhm.
actually give me goosebumps. You kind of acing that level of fitness in that particular age segment. That's actually
Yes,
an
right.
inspiration for us, and a lot of athletes and youngsters. I'm 100% sure about that.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So Vanessa, talking about your clients. So are you currently coaching like more of in-person clients, or it's more of online clients?
So my business was always based on in person, and I was really a high end person. I see people one on one in a private facility, right, in San Jose, California.
Right.
So when COVID happened, I really took the time to write the book. I had started writing it. I finished the book. The book came out. The next thing is to do the app and do more remote people. It's very
Right.
expensive to see a trainer one on one in person. I really want to be able to inspire more people on a remote level. So now that I have the app built, the book is out, we have videos. Now we move to that different level of doing a lot more people at a less expensive cost that still
Yeah.
is financially viable for me as my company and builds my brand. So that's really what I need to do. And it's also because I travel so much for my races. I have all these opportunities to speak somewhere. I need to take care of the clients I see in person and in remote. And so
Right.
that's what the app can allow me to do.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, Vanessa, how are you managing your clients before using FitBudd? Like, if I talk about your in-person clients, or maybe your online clients to be specific,
Mhm.
how are you managing them before FitBudd?
Before FitBudd, I was using another app that was horrifying and it was expensive. And
Okay.
it was just an online thing that they would get basically text messages from me. But it was very cumbersome. But the main thing was I couldn't personalize it. So
Right.
when I started to look at, okay, if I'm going to do my own app, how I want to be able to personalize it to the client, but still make it quick enough that I'm not writing an essay to the client every week, right?
Right.
So and I wanted them to be able to communicate with me quickly, which is what FitBudd did. I looked at 6 different companies to build the app before I chose you. I looked at a private entity to build my own app. And it was really interesting how so many were just like, this is what a fitness person's app is, period. And I was
Right.
like, well, that's not what I need at all. I need to
Yeah.
be able to see history. I need to be able to
Right.
do private, like very common. We have in 2 weeks here, we have
Right.
a 5K, 10K local. Everyone, some people are walking a 5K, some people are racing a 10K. That's a
Right.
very different thing. So they have different things
Definitely.
they have to do. So I wanted to put that in their app.
Yeah, great, 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 great. So Vanessa, according to you, because you have been, like kind of with Fitbit from a long time now. So how do you feel like what's the USP according to you of using Fitbit as a trainer? And also, benefits of using an application from a personal trainer's point of view.
So it really keeps everything organized really, really well. And everyone knows what's happening, where they are, what they're doing. But I think really being able to see where we're going, what they're going to do for the week. So if I update everybody on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and have the schedule in there. So someone can say, okay, I'm working with her in person on Tuesday. On Wednesday, she's got an arm workout for me. On Thursday, she's got a 3-mile run. They can see it. I think the fitness aspect is fantastic, how I can put that in there. The water usage for certain clients, drinking water is really, really hard for them. So
Right.
the app has made it like a game because it's just a click. I just like another glass. It's very interesting. And they're really getting to see what happens calorie wise with food, because I'm not putting you on an exact diet. You're putting in there what you did in there to see what you've done. Then I can see your trends in food. It allows them to be honest with food instead of saying, I want you to eat this, because that's a recipe for disaster in my world. I want to see what you do, and then we can adjust that to make your life livable so that you're actually having a nutritional value to make everything better.
Right. Great, great, great. And is there any like, your favorite feature of FitBudd? If I talk about one feature, is there any like kind of a feature which you really like about FitBudd?
That I can put personal notes in there. And so also what I've done in the personal, like if I say for you to do a 3-mile run tomorrow, I actually put pretty much either an inspirational picture of me, or I put an inspirational picture of Eliud Kipchoge, or a really funny cartoon of person running. People love
Right.
to open up their app and see what pictures I have in there. They think that's
Right.
hysterical, but
Right.
it makes it very like it's very personal then, right? Because
Right.
there's nobody, doesn't look like the same as someone else who just came before them, or even their wife's app. It's a different thing. So the
Right.
personalization in the fitness is great.
Right, definitely. So Vanessa, as you talked about, like online coaching your clients in a remote setup. So how do you actually motivate them? For example, if there is an athlete and there is a client of yours who is sitting in maybe South Africa, and you are kind
Mm-hmm.
of coaching him or her, on an
Mm-hmm.
in an online setup. So what are like what is your go-to strategy for them to like kind of be pumped up for the workouts and all, and you can also keep a track of it.
So usually, so you just put on that, putting a voice message on somebody's chat, right? That is huge, right? So they open that up and they hear my voice. I say, hey, wait a minute, you skipped Tuesday and Wednesday's workout. Tell me what's going on with you. It's very quick for me to do, and they can
Right.
like, oh shit, right now I got it. She's keeping me accountable. So I really loved adding that feature. It's fantastic, and it just keeps everybody, regular. And it doesn't take me. Right now I think there's 37 clients on the app. It doesn't take me 10 minutes to look at everyone and what they did for the day, right? And
Right.
it's a smiley face. If there's no smiley face, then I know I better check in on them. Something's going
Yeah,
wrong.
right, right, right. So Vanessa, like as we are, kind of heading towards the end of the interview, so like, any like kind of, suggestions for the like for the female athletes, or for the, like for the people who are actually, seeing you as a role model, are there any,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, any tips or something which you would
Sure.
like to give women watching this interview who are actually keen to pursue
Mm-hmm.
their, sports or maybe their wellness
Mm-hmm.
to from a professional point of view? Any
Sure.
tips which you would like to give them?
So one of the things that's very common with women is they don't feel secure enough to even try anything. So one of the reasons people would come to me is because it's a private studio, they can actually learn without feeling embarrassed. And
Right.
so because they didn't have someone that taught them sports at a young age, they don't know what to do with their bodies. They're unhappy with their bodies. By doing it remotely, you're in your living room, you're in your bedroom, you're watching a video with me, you're having a video one-on-one with me once a week or once a month, depending on what you choose. But it's all very personal, and it allows you to learn how to use your body and to grow without feeling embarrassed.
Right.
And I'm always big about going to the person's personality. What is your personality type? Let's figure out a weight program and a fitness program to your type, and then we can move forward. But women should not be embarrassed about their bodies if they have to lose weight or gain muscle. They should just feel proud that they're actually working toward a goal.
Definitely, definitely. And also I feel that, there are, a lot of content creators also in the market who are actually, like marketing and promoting body positivity also, because that has actually, become like a huge issue. As you mentioned about Kim Kardashian,
Mm-hmm.
like the people actually start comparing themselves with, huge celebs and all.
Right.
And that is when, like kind of misery and, other kind of, complexes and all peep in.
Right. It's horrifying, right? That's not reality. Let's talk about what reality is, right? If
Right.
you see me the day after a marathon, boy, am I walking really well? Probably not, right? Let's talk
Right.
about the reality that there are days
Right.
that you don't feel like working out. I might go out for a 6-mile run, not feel it, end up walking 3. Let's talk about the reality of maybe, your kid had a bad test, you stayed up all night studying with your kid. So you can't
Right.
do something. You have to figure out how to put your food and your exercise into your daily life to make everything work.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And also one more thing, Vanessa, which I was, kind of curious to know, that as you, talked about reality, because see, a social media and reality are different, are two different aspects, which
Yeah,
people
okay.
nowadays have, started like correlating all like these two things. So according to you, because, a lot of trainers in the fitness space are, creating a lot of content on Instagram also. And people when they see their abs, and when they see their cuts, and also people actually see that this is like the reality which is there. So what do you think, as a content creator, like trainers, like content creators who are trainers, like basically fitness influencers, what do you think that do shall they kind of create more content which is realistic to consume, or they should more move towards little professional approach towards their brand, because they need to be professional and engaging at the same time, because everyone loves watching aesthetics, and loves watching things
Sure.
which are in a very clear manner.
Sure. And I think, I'm very real on mine. Usually my pictures are actually from a real race. Just made a reel that actually shows me the pain in the middle of the race, happy as could be at the finish line. But I think that this is the reality. The reality is I get up at 4:30 in the morning to go run so that I can actually win on the weekends. And it's not necessarily very pretty, right? Training is tough, right?
Right.
So, I'm very real about it. And most of my pictures are from actual races or actual workouts.
Wow.
And they're, this is not, makeup, here we go, and perfect lighting. This is a real race. So I try to
Right.
really show what I'm really doing. And I'm very honest about my failures. I went to a national race last weekend, did not go anywhere near as planned due to whatever. And I'm honest about it. Hey, didn't get the time I wanted, didn't get the race I wanted, got to get back at it this week and get back to training.
Yeah, definitely. That's truly inspiring, Vanessa. So, Vanessa, last question over to you. So, do you have any kind of, fitness inspirational quotation, or maybe a video or something like that, which actually, gives you that chills, and, like, sets you to fire when you're maybe towards coaching your clients, or maybe to, show up to that race? Is there any fitness quotation or something which is really close to your heart?
It's such an interesting thing. I watch a lot of videos of people winning races, and I could probably watch any sport. Biathlon to me is fascinating. They can cross country run and slow down their hearts to shoot. I'll always watch people that collapse at finish lines. I mean, that's always such an interesting thing about when you've given everything you possibly had and you collapse. We see it in running all the time. We'll see it in football players that are just spent, right? We see it in soccer guys are running for, hours and they're just done, right? That's always at every sport level. Even if I don't play that sport, it's inspirational that you gave 190%. So to actually physically feel like you're fit enough to give 190% is huge, right? And I always watch athletes do that.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Also, follow-up question to this. If you could have a huge billboard, what would you write on it, and why?
So the name of my book is It's Your Body, Move It, Love It, Live. Most people don't move their bodies enough and they don't love their bodies. I mean, we are lucky to have, these are the best machines ever created. You could have 20 broken bones and your muscles and your ligaments are going to make up for that problem. All of us have had injuries. None of us have a perfect body, and we all can do amazing things. And I really want to teach people that, this is your body. You can actually do something with it. So that's why my
Yeah.
book was named that way. And it's really what I think all the time.
Wow, that's great. That's great, Vanessa. Thank you so much for today's interview.